The fork hit the plate with a sharp clink. Every head at the table turned toward Maria. Her sister Sherry had just called her support staff. In front of everyone. The laughter that followed felt like needles under her skin. But then Bryant leaned forward. Sherry's fiancé. The man everyone had been trying to impress all night. He asked the question that would change everything. Wait, what do you really do? Maria Scott was 31 years old and had spent most of her life being invisible. She worked in regulatory oversight and financial compliance for the federal government. Most people found it boring when she tried to explain. So she stopped trying. Her family assumed she pushed papers in some office building. They never asked for details. She never offered them. Tonight was supposed to celebrate Sherry's engagement. Instead, it became the night Maria finally spoke up. The restaurant buzzed with energy. Marcello's was the kind of place where reservations took weeks and every dish cost more than most people spent on groceries. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. White tablecloths covered every surface. Their table sat near the window overlooking the city lights. 14 people crowded around it. Family, friends, business associates. All there for Sherry. Their parents sat at the head of the table. William V. Scott wore his best suit. Garcia Scott had her hair done special for the occasion. They beamed with pride every time someone congratulated them. Their oldest daughter was marrying a tech CEO. Bryant Chin ran TechVenture Solutions. He wore success like a second skin. Confident. Charming. Everyone wanted to be near him. Maria sat 3 seats down from her sister. Close enough to hear everything. Far enough to be forgotten. She wore a simple black dress. Nothing flashy. Nothing that would draw attention. That was how she moved through life. Quiet. Unnoticed. Safe. Sherry loved the spotlight. Always had. Tonight she glowed in a red dress that probably cost more than Maria's rent. Her laugh carried across the restaurant. Loud and bright. She touched Bryant's arm constantly. Claiming him. Showing him off. Making sure everyone knew he chose her. The appetizers came and went. Conversation flowed like the wine. Bryant talked about his company's expansion plans. How they were waiting on federal approval for a major retirement fund partnership. How it would change everything for them. Maria's fork paused halfway to her mouth. She knew that file. It sat on her desk right now. Linda Monroe sat across from Maria. Sherry's best friend since college. She tried to include Maria in the conversation. So Maria, how's work going? It was polite. Genuine even. Before Maria could answer, Sherry cut in. Her voice dripped with affection that somehow felt like acid. Oh, she does administrative stuff. Nothing too exciting. Crane Foster, Bryant's business partner, nodded absently. Lance Murphy, a mutual friend, checked his phone. Nobody really cared what Maria did. They never did. But Linda pressed on. What kind of administrative work? She smiled. Actually interested. That's when Sherry laughed. Loud enough that people at nearby tables glanced over. She gestured toward Maria with her wine glass. She's just support staff. The words hung in the air. A few people chuckled. Not because it was funny. Because they didn't know what else to do. Linda's smile froze. Crane shifted in his seat. Lentz put his phone down. The words hit Maria like a slap. Years of being overlooked. Dismissed. Reduced to background noise. All packed into 4 words. Her mother glanced at her. Then away. Her father focused on his plate. Neither of them said anything. They never did. Sherry was the star. Maria was the shadow. That's how it had always been. That's how it would always be. Except Bryant wasn't laughing. He sat forward. His expression curious. Not mocking. Not dismissive. Actually curious. Wait, he said. His voice cut through the awkwardness. What do you really do? The table went quiet. Not polite quiet. Tense quiet. Everyone leaned in. Expecting something small. Something forgettable. Something that would prove Sherry right. Maria looked at Bryant. Really looked at him. She could let it go. Laugh it off. Play the role she'd been assigned since birth. Or she could tell the truth. She set down her fork. Her voice came out calm. Steady. Professional. I manage federal approvals and retirement fund reviews for major health groups. She paused, let it sink in, then delivered the final blow, including the one your company is waiting on. Silence. Not the comfortable kind. The kind that presses against your chest and makes it hard to breathe. Linda's fork slipped from her hand. It clattered against her plate. Crane stopped mid-reach for his wine glass. His hand hung in the air like he forgot how to move. Lance's eyes went wide. Bryant's face drained of color. All that confidence, all that charm, gone in an instant. Understanding crashed over him like a wave. Scott. The name on every email his team sent begging for updates. The signature he needed on documents that would make or break his company. The person holding his entire future in her hands. That was Maria, the support staff sister. William straightened in his chair. For the first time all night, he really looked at his youngest daughter. Garcia's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. No words came out. Pride flickered across her face, mixed with confusion. Maybe shame. Sherry said nothing. Sherry, who always had something to say, who filled every silence with her voice. She sat frozen, her wine glass halfway to her lips. Her eyes darted between Maria and Bryant, trying to understand what just happened. Maria didn't need to say anything else. The silence did all the work. Years of being invisible, of being dismissed, of being reduced to nothing, shattered with one sentence. She picked up her fork, took a bite of her food. Let them sit with it. Let them realize. Let them feel what she'd felt every single day of her life. But smaller, concentrated, distilled into this one perfect moment. Before you hear how this ends, hit that subscribe button. Because when your family underestimates you, sometimes the truth hits harder than any revenge. Bryant's hand trembled as he reached for his wine glass. His business partner whispered something urgent in his ear. Sherry's eyes darted between Maria and her fiancé. Realization crept across her face like frost. Her sister, her invisible, boring, support staff sister, held their entire future in her hands. The engagement, the expansion, the life Sherry had been planning. All of it depended on Maria's approval. But what led to this moment? What made Maria stay quiet all these years? And what would happen next would change everything. Maria wasn't always invisible. As a child, she tried to be seen. She brought home perfect grades. Her parents smiled and said good job. Then Sherry would walk in with a B- and a story about the teacher being unfair. The rest of the evening would focus on Sherry. How to help her. How to support her. How to make sure she succeeded. Maria's A+ went on the fridge. Nobody looked at it twice. By middle school, Maria learned the pattern. Sherry got the attention, the praise, the worry, the investment. Maria got the expectations. Do well. Don't cause problems. Be responsible. Handle things yourself. Their parents never said it out loud. They didn't have to. Actions speak louder than words. College funds proved it. Sherry got one. Full ride to wherever she wanted. Maria got told they were proud she earned scholarships. Like it was a choice. Like they hadn't chosen one daughter over the other. Maria worked 3 jobs through college. Campus library. Weekend retail. Summer internships. She graduated with honors and debt. Sherry graduated with connections and credit cards their parents paid off. Nobody said it was unfair. That would require acknowledging it happened. The Scott family specialized in not acknowledging things, especially things that made them uncomfortable. After college, Maria found work in government compliance. It sounded boring because it was. At first, filing paperwork, checking regulations, making sure companies followed rules. But Maria was good at details, good at finding problems others missed, good at staying focused when everyone else got distracted. She climbed quietly. No fanfare. No announcements at family dinners. Just steady progress. One promotion at a time. Then came Trevor. She met him at a work conference 5 years ago. He sold software to government agencies. Smooth talker. Nice smile. He made Maria feel seen. Actually seen. Not overlooked. Not dismissed. He asked about her day. Her thoughts. Her dreams. For 2 years, She believed someone finally chose her first. She was wrong. Trevor left her for a woman who worked in marketing. Someone with an exciting job. Someone who went to parties and had stories worth telling. He said Maria was too quiet. Too serious. Too focused on work that didn't matter. He said it kindly. Like that made it hurt less. It didn't. Maria spent 3 months crying herself to sleep. Then she stopped crying. Started working harder. If being boring meant being good at her job, fine. She'd be the best boring person in the building. The breakup taught her something important. People only value what they understand. Her family didn't understand her work, so they didn't value it. Trevor didn't understand why rules mattered, so he didn't value her. Maria stopped trying to explain herself. Stopped trying to translate her life into terms others would appreciate. She just lived it. Quietly. Competently. Alone. 3 years after Trevor, Maria ran the regulatory oversight department. She reviewed multi-million-dollar proposals. Approved or denied federal partnerships. Held the power to make or break companies. At home, her family still thought she answered phones. She never corrected them. Why bother? They never asked questions. Never showed interest. Telling them would just be awkward. So she let them believe what they wanted. When their mother called about Sherry's engagement, Maria felt the old familiar weight. "We need your help planning the party," Garcia said. Not asking. Assuming. Maria had vacation days saved. Maria was organized. Maria would handle the boring parts while Sherry handled being beautiful and celebrated. The same pattern. Different day. Maria said yes. Because that's what she always did. Bryant, tech CEO. 35 years old. Self-made success story. Sherry met him at a charity gala 6 months ago. She came home gushing. Rich. Ambitious. Connected. Everything Sherry wanted. Garcia started planning the wedding before they were engaged. William researched Bryant's company online. Read articles. Showed them to everyone. Everyone except Maria. Who would have recognized the name immediately? The engagement happened fast. Sherry called Maria at work, screaming with excitement. Bryant proposed at some expensive restaurant with a ring that cost more than Maria's car. The wedding would be huge. Destination venue. Hundreds of guests. Maria's role? Help address invitations. Manage the gift registry. Show up and smile. Support staff. Even at her own sister's wedding. Maria tried to be happy for Sherry. She really did. But something felt off. Bryant seemed perfect. Too perfect. The kind of perfect that comes from practice. From knowing what people want to hear. From being very good at performing success. But Maria worked with people like Bryant every day. Men who built empires on promises. On projections. On potential. Sometimes it worked out. Sometimes it crumbled. She hoped for Sherry's sake it worked out. Then the file landed on her desk. TechVenture Solutions. Federal Retirement Fund Partnership Proposal. Major expansion into healthcare management. Bryant, CEO. Maria stared at the name. Felt her stomach drop. This was her sister's fiancé. His company needed approval from her department. From her specifically. The irony tasted bitter. Her family thought she was nobody. She held her sister's future husband's entire business in her hands. Maria read every page. Professional obligation. The proposal looked solid on the surface. Good projections. Reasonable timeline. Strong partnerships lined up. Everything depended on federal approval. Without it, TechVenture Solutions would stall. Maybe collapse. Bryant had investors waiting. Contracts pending. His whole empire balanced on getting this approved. On getting Maria's signature. She could have told her family. Should have told them. But something stopped her. Maybe petty satisfaction at knowing something they didn't. Maybe self-preservation. If they knew, they'd expect her to fast-track it. To use her position to help family. Never mind, that's exactly what she couldn't do. Her job required impartiality. Ethics. Integrity. Things that mattered more than making Sherry happy. But her family wouldn't understand that. So Maria stayed quiet. The week before the engagement dinner, Maria attended a federal review meeting. Bryant's name came up. One of her colleagues mentioned he'd been calling. asking for timeline updates, pushing for faster processing. Normal behavior, but aggressive. Maria made notes, stayed professional, did her job. Nothing more, nothing less. She wouldn't give him special treatment. She also wouldn't punish him for dating her sister. The application would proceed normally. Fair. Impartial. Exactly as it should. The dinner invitation came with expectations. Wear something nice. Be there early. Help Sherry feel celebrated. Maria picked a simple black dress. Nothing memorable. She arrived on time. Watched her sister hold court. Watched her parents glow with pride. Watched Bryant charm everyone at the table. He was good at it. Very good. He talked about his company's future like it was guaranteed. Like federal approval was just a formality. Like he had everything under control. Maria sat quietly, observing. She noticed how Bryant name-dropped. How he positioned himself. How he made sure everyone knew his worth. Classic CEO behavior. Confidence masking anxiety. She'd seen it 100 times. Men who built their identity on success. Who couldn't imagine failure. Who thought wanting something badly enough made it happen. But Maria knew better. Wanting didn't matter. Qualifications did. Following rules did. Having a clean application did. And Bryant's file had some questions she needed answered before signing anything. Then Sherry laughed and called her support staff. And suddenly Maria's quiet professional life and her invisible family life crashed together. Bryant asked what she really did. The table waited for her answer. And Maria made a choice. For once in her life, she chose to be seen. 3 days after the dinner, Maria sat in her office reviewing Bryant's complete file. Every page, every document, every disclosure. And she found something. Something that changed everything. Her phone buzzed. Sherry. Again. The 40th text since that night. Begging. Explaining. Demanding. Maria ignored it. She had work to do. Real work. The kind that actually mattered. And what she was about to discover would destroy more than just Sherry's engagement. The day of the dinner started normal. Maria woke up at 6. Made coffee. Checked emails. Nothing unusual. She knew the evening would be uncomfortable. Family events always were. But she'd survive. She always did. Put on a smile. Stay quiet. Go home. That was the plan. Simple. Safe. Familiar. Except nothing about that night would go according to plan. She showered. Dried her hair. Picked the black dress hanging in her closet. Classic. Unremarkable. Perfect for blending into the background. Maria had a whole wardrobe designed for invisibility. Neutral colors. Simple cuts. Nothing that drew attention. Sherry once said Maria dressed like she was afraid of being noticed. She wasn't wrong. Being noticed meant being judged. Being judged meant being found lacking. Maria learned early that invisibility was safer than disappointment. The drive to Marcello's took 40 minutes. Traffic was light for a Friday evening. Maria arrived exactly on time. Not early. Not late. Sherry hated when people arrived early. Stole her entrance. Maria parked 2 blocks away. Let her sister have the close spots. The little sacrifices added up over a lifetime. Death by 1,000 small moments of putting yourself last. The restaurant glowed against the evening sky. Expensive cars lined the valet area. Maria walked past them. Through the heavy glass doors. Into warmth and light and the smell of money. The hostess smiled. Scott party? Maria nodded. Of course they knew. Sherry probably called 3 times to confirm the table. To make sure everything was perfect. To ensure her night went exactly as planned. Control was Sherry's love language. Their parents arrived just after Maria. William wore his navy suit. The good one reserved for important occasions. Garcia had her hair styled in the salon that morning. Maria knew because her mother mentioned it twice on the phone. I want to look nice for the photos, she said. Like documenting Sherry's happiness required professional preparation. Maria's own appearance never warranted discussion. But she was used to that. The table was set for 14. White linens. Crystal glasses. Folded napkins that looked like swans. Sherry had taste. Expensive taste. but taste nonetheless. She arrived 15 minutes late, intentionally, with Bryant on her arm, making an entrance. Every head turned. Sherry glowed. Bryant smiled. They looked perfect together, like a magazine spread, like people whose lives were effortlessly beautiful. Maria clapped with everyone else, played her part. Support staff at her sister's performance. Linda Monroe hugged Maria immediately. They'd met a few times over the years. Sherry's college roommate turned permanent friend. Linda was kind, genuine, the type of person who remembered details about your life and asked follow-up questions. Maria appreciated that, even if it made her uncomfortable. Being seen felt foreign, like wearing shoes that didn't quite fit. You could walk in them, but every step reminded you something was wrong. Crane Foster shook hands around the table. Bryant's business partner. Early 40s. Serious face. He looked like someone who spent too much time in conference rooms making deals that kept him up at night. Lance Murphy followed. Younger. Mid-30s. Casual in a way that screamed old money. The kind of person who never worried about rent because worry was for other people. The rest of the guests filtered in. Friends. Extended family. People there to celebrate Sherry's success at catching a wealthy man. Nobody said it that way, but everyone thought it. Appetizers came. Bruschetta. Calamari. Things Maria couldn't pronounce. Conversation flowed easily. Bryant talked about his company. How TechVenture Solutions was revolutionizing healthcare management. How they'd secured major partnerships. How federal approval was just a formality before they launched nationally. Maria's water glass paused at her lips. She knew that file. She knew the questions it raised. She said nothing. Not her place. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Professional boundaries existed for a reason. Garcia asked Bryant about the wedding timeline. He and Sherry exchanged looks. That couple look that says we've discussed this privately and now we'll perform our unity for others. 6 months, Sherry announced. Destination wedding. Thinking Italy. Gasps of delight circled the table. Maria did the math in her head. 6 months. If Bryant's approval got delayed, could he afford an Italian wedding? Did Sherry know how precarious his finances were? Did she care? Or did she just assume money would always appear when she needed it? The main courses arrived. Steak. Salmon. Pasta that looked like art. People ate and laughed and told stories about Sherry and Bryant. How they met. How he proposed. How perfect they were together. Maria cut her food into small pieces. Chewed slowly. Participated through presence if not conversation. That was her specialty. Being there without really being there. A ghost at the family table. Bryant mentioned his company's expansion again. He couldn't help himself. Success was his identity. His worth. His proof of mattering. We're just waiting on the federal retirement fund approval, he said. Casual. Confident. Should hear back any day now. He had no idea Maria was the one reviewing his file. Why would he? She was just Sherry's quiet sister. The one nobody really noticed. The one who didn't matter. That's when Linda asked about her work. Sweet Linda who tried to include everyone. So Maria, how's work going? A simple question. Polite conversation. Maria opened her mouth to give her standard vague answer. Something about government work. Something boring. Something that would make people's eyes glaze over and move on. But Sherry interrupted. Of course she did. Oh, she does administrative stuff. Sherry waved her hand. Dismissive. Affectionate. Condescending. Nothing too exciting. The words landed like they always did. With the weight of a lifetime of being second. Of being less. Of being the daughter who didn't need attention because she never demanded it. Linda smiled awkwardly. Crane nodded without really listening. Lentz checked his phone. Standard reactions to standard dismissal. Maria had seen it all before. But Linda pressed. What kind of administrative work? She actually wanted to know. Or maybe she just sensed the tension. The undercurrent of something wrong. The way Maria's jaw tightened. The way her parents suddenly found their plates fascinating. The way Sherry's smile stretched too wide. Whatever Linda sensed, she didn't let it go. And that's when everything changed. Sherry laughed. That laugh. The one that echoed across restaurants and made people look. Made people pay attention. Made sure everyone knew she was the center of any room she entered. She gestured toward Maria with her wine glass. Red wine that probably cost $50. She's just support staff. For words. Casual. Careless. Cruel in their simplicity. A few people chuckled. That uncomfortable social laughter that fills awkward spaces. That says we don't know what else to do, so we'll pretend this is funny. But it wasn't funny. It was crushing. Maria felt it in her chest. Years of being overlooked crystallized into that moment. Every time her parents forgot to ask about her day. Every time Sherry got the benefit of the doubt while Maria got expectations. Every time she made herself smaller so someone else could be bigger. All of it compressed into support staff. Just support staff. Like that's all she was. All she'd ever be. Background noise in someone else's life. But then Bryant leaned forward and asked the question that would shatter everything. Wait, what do you really do? The answer came easily, calmly, with the quiet authority of someone who knew exactly who they were, even if nobody else did. Maria explained her job, her real job, the one that held power over multi-million-dollar deals, over company futures, over Bryant's entire expansion plan. And when she said that last part about his company, about his approval, about how she held his future in her hands, the table went silent. That terrible, beautiful silence when everyone realizes they've been wrong. Completely. Devastatingly. Wrong. If you've ever wanted to see someone realize they underestimated the wrong person, stay with me. This is where it gets good. Bryant's wine glass froze halfway to his mouth. His face went through emotions like channels on a television. Confusion. Recognition. Horror. Understanding. His business partner whispered urgently. Bryant pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen, pulling up emails, finding the name. Scott, the federal reviewer. The person his entire team had been trying to reach for weeks. That was Maria, sitting 3 seats away, called support staff by the woman he was about to marry. The woman whose family he'd been trying to impress. Sherry's face went pale, then red. Then pale again. She stood up fast, chair scraping loud against the floor. You're lying. Her voice shook. But they both knew Maria wasn't lying. And in that moment, with 14 pairs of eyes watching, Sherry finally understood. Her invisible sister was the most important person at the table. Sherry's chair hit the floor. The crash silenced nearby tables. Heads turned. Whispers started. Her face cycled through colors like a broken traffic light. Red with anger. White with shock. Red again with embarrassment. You're lying, she repeated. But her voice cracked. Uncertainty bled through. Maria stayed calm. Didn't move. Didn't react. Just existed in the truth she'd finally spoken. Bryant stared at his phone screen. Then at Maria. Then back at his phone. The math was matting. Scott. Federal regulatory oversight. The emails his team sent weekly. The calls that went unreturned. The approval his entire company depended on. All connected to the woman his fiancé just humiliated in public. Garcia reached for Sherry's arm. Sit down, honey. People are staring. Of course that's what mattered. Not the truth. Not the hurt. The appearance. The Scott family specialty. Looking good while falling apart. But Sherry jerked away. Her perfect composure cracking like cheap paint. Why didn't you tell us? She looked at Maria. Actually looked at her. Maybe for the first time in years. Why would you let us think you were nobody? The question hung heavy. Linda shifted uncomfortably. Crane suddenly needed the bathroom. Len studied the ceiling. Nobody wanted to be part of this. But they couldn't leave. It was too good. Too raw. Too real. Maria set down her fork. Took a sip of water. Let her sister's question breathe. Then answered with one of her own. When did you ever ask? Silence. The kind that makes your ears ring. William cleared his throat. Opened his mouth. Closed it. Garcia's eyes went shiny. Tears threatening. The truth was a mirror they didn't want to look into. When had they asked about Maria's work? Her life? Her anything? When had they treated her like someone worth knowing instead of just someone who was there? The answer sat on all their faces. Never. They never asked. Bryant stood. Professional mode activated. Damage control. Maria, I'd like to speak with you. His voice was smooth. Controlled. CEO voice. The one that closed deals and managed crises. But his hands shook slightly. Maria noticed. She noticed everything people thought they were hiding. Privately, if possible. He needed to fix this. Fast. His company's future depended on it. Maria looked at him. Then at Sherry. Then at her parents. Finally seeing her. Finally understanding. She stood slowly. Monday morning. My office. Call my assistant for an appointment. Professional. Distant. Unmovable. She grabbed her purse. I'm going home. Enjoy your dinner. She walked out. Didn't run. Didn't storm. Just walked. With her head up. Her shoulders back. Her dignity intact. Behind her, chaos erupted. Sherry's voice rising. Bryant trying to calm her. Garcia calling after Maria. William demanding someone explain what just happened. Linda texting someone frantically. Maria didn't look back. She was done being the person everyone forgot. Done being support staff in her own life. The valet brought her car. She tipped him $5 and drove home. Simple. Clean. Done. Her apartment was quiet. Small. Neat. The kind of place that felt like exactly enough for one person who didn't need much. Maria kicked off her heels. Changed into sweats. Made tea. Sat on her couch in the dark. Her phone started buzzing immediately. Sherry. 12 calls in 10 minutes. Then her mother. Then her father. Then Sherry again. Maria turned it off. She'd dealt with them her whole life. They could wait one night. Give her this one small space to breathe. Morning came with 43 missed calls. 17 voicemails. 32 text messages. Maria read them with coffee in hand. Sherry's messages spiraled from anger to panic to desperation. How could you embarrass me like that? Morphed into, please call me back. Ended with, you're going to ruin my life. Her mother's texts were gentler. Confused. We need to talk, sweetie. Her father's were brief. Call me. That was it. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just call me. Like she was the one who owed them something. Bryant's message came through LinkedIn. Professional. Careful. I'd appreciate the opportunity to discuss the TechVenture application at your earliest convenience. I understand this situation is complex given the family connection. I assure you I want to proceed appropriately. Translation. Please don't tank my company because I'm engaged to your sister. Maria didn't respond. Not yet. She had work to do. Real work. The file she'd been avoiding needed her full attention now. Monday morning. Maria arrived at her office at 7. 2 hours before Bryant's appointment. She pulled his complete file. Read every page again. Slowly. Carefully. Looking for what she'd sensed, but not confirmed. And there it was. Buried in supplementary documentation. Email chains between Bryant's company and another federal reviewer. Dated 3 weeks ago. Before the file reached Maria's desk. Someone at TechVenture Solutions had tried to expedite the process through back channels. Sent gifts to a junior reviewer. Made promises about consulting opportunities after approval. Nothing illegal. But deeply inappropriate. Ethics violations. The kind that got applications denied. The kind that ended careers. Maria's stomach sank. This wasn't just business now. This was her sister's future. Her family. The weight of it pressed down. She could ignore it. Process the application based on its merits. Pretend she never saw the ethics issues. But that would make her exactly what everyone assumed she was. Someone who bent rules for family. Someone without integrity. Someone small. She wasn't that person. She'd never been that person. Even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. Bryant arrived at 9 sharp. He wore a different suit. Darker. More serious. This wasn't charm time. This was survival time. Maria's assistant showed him in. He sat across from her desk. Corporate furniture. Government budget. Nothing fancy. Nothing impressive. The kind of office that said competence over flash. Bryant looked around. Probably comparing it to his corner office with city views. Thank you for seeing me, he started. Professional. Respectful. Scared underneath. Maria let him talk. About his company. His vision. His investors. His timeline. All the things that mattered to him. Then she slid the file across the desk. Open to the problematic emails. Explain this. His face went white. Then red. Then white again. Sherry's colors. Maybe that's why they worked. Both of them changed shades when caught. That wasn't me, he said quickly. That was Crane. My business partner. He thought he was helping. I didn't know until after. Maybe true. Maybe not. But it didn't matter. The company name was on the emails. Bryant's name was on the application. His responsibility regardless of who actually sent them. I see, Maria said. Nothing else. Just those 2 words. Letting him sit in the consequences of his company's choices. What does this mean for the application? He asked the question they both knew was coming. The one that determined everything. Maria leaned back in her chair. Looked at this man her sister loved. This man who built his identity on success. This man who'd been trying to impress the Scott family without realizing the one who mattered was the one they ignored. It means I have to report the ethics violations. Standard protocol. Your application gets flagged. Goes to review committee. Could take months. Maybe longer. Definitely won't be approved in time for your investor deadline. Bryant's hands gripped the armrests. Knuckles white. That will destroy the company. Honest. Raw. The mask dropped. Just a man facing failure. Maria felt something like sympathy. But sympathy didn't change rules. Didn't make exceptions. Didn't compromise integrity. That's not my problem, she said. Not cruel. Just factual. My job is ensuring federal partnerships meet ethical standards. Your company tried to circumvent that. There are consequences. She stood. Meeting over. Bryant didn't move. What about Sherry? Low voice. Almost broken. What about her? She loves me. Like that mattered. Like love changed facts. Like Maria should care more about her sister's feelings than her professional ethics. Maria walked to her office door. Opened it. Then you should have thought about that before your company tried to buy approval. Bryant stood slowly. Defeated. He walked out without another word. Maria closed the door. Sat back at her desk. And felt the weight of what she'd just done. She'd told the truth. Followed the rules. Done her job. And in doing so, probably destroyed her sister's engagement. Her family's happiness. Any chance at being welcomed back into their circle. But she could live with that. She couldn't live with compromising who she was. Not even for them. Especially not for them. Her phone rang. Sherry. Maria let it go to voicemail. She'd talk to her sister eventually. But right now, she needed to finish the paperwork. File the ethics complaint. Do her job. The job she was actually good at. The job that mattered. The job that made her more than just support staff. Even if nobody in her family would ever understand that. That night, her doorbell rang. Maria looked through the peephole. Her parents. Both of them. Standing in the hallway looking older than she remembered. She considered not answering. But that would make her like them. Avoiding. Dismissing. Pretending problems didn't exist. She opened the door. Can we talk? William asked. Not demanded. Asked. That was new. Maria stepped aside. Let them in. They'd never been to her apartment before. Never asked to visit. Never seemed interested in her life outside family obligations. Now they stood in her living room looking around. Taking in the neat furniture. The organized bookshelves. The life she'd built without them. Garcia touched a framed photo. Maria at her college graduation. Alone. They hadn't come. Sherry had a recital that day. Of course. We didn't know, Garcia said. Soft. Maybe sorry. About your job. About what you do. We should have asked. Maria didn't respond. What was there to say? They should have asked. Years ago. Decades ago. Every single day of her life, they should have asked. But they didn't. And now here they were. In her space. Wanting something. Probably wanting her to fix Sherry's problem. To save Bryant's company. To sacrifice her integrity for family peace. The old pattern. Different circumstances. William sat heavily on her couch. He looked tired. Sherry's devastated. Bryant might call off the wedding. Says his company will go under. He looked at Maria. Really looked. For the first time maybe ever. Can you help them? There it was. The ask. The real reason for the visit. Not to apologize. Not to acknowledge years of neglect. To ask her to save Sherry. Again. Like always. Maria sat across from her father. Bryant's company violated federal ethics guidelines. I have to report it. That's my job. Simple. Clear. Unmovable. Garcia's face crumpled. But Sherry loves him. She'll be heartbroken. Like that was Maria's responsibility. Like preventing Sherry's heartbreak was more important than Maria's professional integrity. Than Maria's own feelings. Than Maria's life. I've been heartbroken, Maria said quietly. Nobody seemed to worry about that. The words hit like stones. Garcia flinched. William looked away. Truth was uncomfortable. Truth required them to see themselves. To acknowledge choices made. Favorites picked. Daughter dismissed. They sat in that truth for long minutes. Then William spoke. Voice rough. We failed you. 3 words. Decades overdue. But there. Finally there. We saw Sherry's need for attention and gave it to her. We saw your independence and took it for granted. That wasn't fair. That wasn't right. We're sorry. Maria felt something crack in her chest. Not breaking. Opening. She'd waited her whole life to hear those words. But now that they were here, they felt smaller than expected. Because sorry didn't erase the past. Didn't fill the empty spaces. Didn't change who she'd become in their absence. She was still the daughter who raised herself. Who built her own life. Who learned not to need them. And that was both sad and freeing. I appreciate that, she said. Meaning it. Also meaning it wasn't enough. Would never be enough. But was something. I still have to do my job. Even if it hurts Sherry. Garcia nodded. Tears sliding down her face. William stood. Looked like he wanted to hug Maria but wasn't sure he had the right. He didn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. We understand, he said. We're proud of you. For what that's worth. He walked to the door. Garcia followed. At the threshold, she turned back. Will you come to dinner? Next week? Just family. No performances. No celebrations. Just us. So we can try to know you. Maria wanted to say no. To protect herself. To keep the boundaries she'd built. But she also wanted family. Real family. The kind that saw her. That was worth one dinner at least. Maybe, she said. I'll think about it. Garcia smiled. Small. Sad. Hopeful. That's more than we deserve. They left. Maria closed the door. Leaned against it. And for the first time in her life, felt like maybe she wasn't invisible anymore. But what that meant for her family. For Sherry. For Bryant. She was about to find out. Because what she discovered about Bryant's company was just the beginning. The real truth about why he proposed to Sherry, about what he really wanted, was about to surface. And when it did, everyone would finally see him clearly. The ethics report took Maria 3 days to complete. Every detail documented. Every violation outlined. Every email chain included. Professional. Thorough. Devastating. She submitted it Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, Bryant's file was flagged. By Friday, his investors started asking questions. By Monday, the news leaked. TechVenture Solutions under federal review. Approval delayed indefinitely. Stock prices dropped. Partnership deals paused. Bryant's perfect empire started crumbling. And Sherry started calling. Maria didn't answer. Not because she was cruel. Because there was nothing to say. She'd done her job. Followed protocol. Maintained integrity. Everything Bryant's company lost, they lost through their own choices. Not hers. But families don't think like that. Families see someone hurting and want someone to blame. Maria was convenient. The sister who finally had power and used it to destroy. Never mind the truth. Never mind the rules. Never mind that Bryant brought this on himself. Sherry needed a villain. Maria fit the role. Wednesday afternoon, Maria's assistant buzzed. Sherry Scott is here. Says it's urgent. Should I send her away? Maria considered it. The safe choice. The easy choice. But easy wasn't who she was anymore. Send her in. Sherry entered like a storm. Red eyes. Messy hair. Yoga pants instead of designer clothes. She looked human. Broken. Real. Nothing like the perfect sister who commanded every room. You ruined my life, she said. No greeting. No preamble. Just accusation. Maria gestured to a chair. Sit down. Sherry didn't sit. I won't sit. I won't pretend this is okay. You destroyed Bryant's company because I hurt your feelings. Because I called you support staff. That's petty. That's cruel. That's not who you are. Maria stayed calm. Voice level. I destroyed nothing. I reported ethics violations. That's my job. Sherry laughed. Bitter. Sharp. Your job. Right. Your important job that nobody knew about. That you never told us about. Why? So you could hold it over us later? So you could play the victim and then punish us. The words were meant to wound. They did. But Maria had been wounded before. She knew how to breathe through pain. I didn't tell you because you never asked, Maria said. Same answer as the restaurant. Same truth they kept ignoring. You weren't interested in my life. Just in what I could do for yours. Sherry's face crumpled. For a second, Maria saw past the anger. Saw fear. Saw a woman whose perfect life was falling apart and didn't know how to handle it. I love him, Sherry whispered. Real pain. Genuine emotion. The kind that transcends siblings' rivalry and cuts to human hurt. Maria softened. Not much. But some. I know. And she did. Despite everything, Sherry loved Bryant. Whether he deserved it was another question. Then he shouldn't have tried to cheat the system. This isn't about you and me. It's about his company breaking rules. He didn't know. Sherry's defense came quick. It was his business partner. Bryant would never. But she didn't sound sure. Maria saw doubt flickering. The question Sherry didn't want to ask. About the man she loved. About whether she really knew him. About whether love was enough when it was built on shaky ground. Maria pulled a folder from her desk drawer. Handed it to Sherry. Read this. Then decide if you still want to defend him. Sherry opened it. Scanned the first page. Confusion crossed her face. Then shock. Then something darker. Betrayal. The documents were emails. Between Bryant and a colleague. Dated 6 months ago. Right when he and Sherry met. Why is he emailing about the Scott family? Sherry's voice shook. Maria had wondered the same thing when she found them. Deep dive research she shouldn't have done. But did. Because something felt wrong. Keep reading, she said quietly. Sherry read. Her face went through emotions. Each email worse than the last. Bryant discussing the Scott family. William's business connections. Garcia's social circle. And Maria. Federal employee. Regulatory oversight. Could be useful. The words were clinical. Strategic. Cold. He'd researched them before meeting Sherry. Targeted her specifically. The charity gala wasn't chance. It was planned. He knew about Maria's job. Knew she handled approvals. Dated Sherry to get close to the family. To create a connection he could exploit later. When his company needed federal approval. The last email was worst. Bryant to Crane. The sister is apparently in regulatory. Perfect positioning. Once I'm engaged, I'll have inside access. Should expedite our timeline significantly. Sherry dropped the folder. Backed up like the papers burned her. No. Voice broken. No, he wouldn't. We love each other. He proposed. He wants to marry me. But the words rang hollow. Evidence was evidence. Love was love. Sometimes they weren't the same thing. Maria wanted to comfort her sister. To say it would be okay. But she couldn't lie. Not anymore. I'm sorry, she said. Meaning it. Despite everything, watching Sherry break hurt. Family was complicated. You could be angry at someone and still ache when they suffered. He used you. He used all of us. The engagement was access. The relationship was strategy. When his company tried to bypass protocol with bribes, I started digging. Found these in his email archives. Public record for federal investigations. Cold comfort. True comfort. The kind that destroys to rebuild. Sherry sank into the chair she'd refused earlier. stared at nothing, processing, grieving, understanding. I thought I was special, she whispered. I thought someone finally chose me first. The irony wasn't lost on Maria. Sherry, who'd always been chosen, who'd always been first, finally feeling what Maria felt every day. Being second, being used, being valued for what you could provide instead of who you were. Maria sat beside her, not saying anything, just present. Sometimes that's all anyone needs. Presence. Witness. Someone to sit with you in the wreckage. They sat there for a long time. Office sounds filtered through the door. Phones ringing. People walking. Normal life continuing while Sherry's world fell apart. Finally, Sherry spoke. I've been terrible to you. Not a question. A statement. Accepting responsibility. Rare for Sherry. Maybe painful enough to grow. Yes, Maria said. Honest. You have been. No sugarcoating. No making it easier. Truth was sharp. But necessary. I'm sorry. Simple words. Heavy meaning. Years of dismissal. Decades of being overlooked. Couldn't be fixed with sorry. But it was a start. I was jealous, Sherry continued. You never seemed to need anyone. You just handled things. Built your life. Didn't need attention or validation. I hated that about you. Because I need it. Constantly. I need people to see me. To tell me I matter. To prove I'm worth something. And you just existed. Complete. Whole. Like you didn't need anything from anyone. The confession hung between them. Raw. Vulnerable. More honest than Sherry had maybe ever been. Maria understood it. In a backwards way. I needed things, she said quietly. I just learned not to ask. Because asking meant being disappointed. So I stopped asking. Built myself. Became someone who didn't need the family that didn't need me. Sherry cried then. Really cried. Not pretty tears. Ugly sobbing. Years of competition. Comparison. Cruelty. All coming out. Maria handed her tissues. Waited. Let her sister feel everything she'd avoided feeling by staying surface level her whole life. Sometimes breaking was the only way to become real. When the crying slowed, Sherry looked at Maria. What do I do now? Maria didn't have an easy answer. You call off the engagement. You tell Bryant you know the truth. You stop building your life around what other people think and figure out what you actually want. Simple advice. Hard execution. Sherry nodded. Wiped her face. Looked younger somehow. Less polished. More human. Can I call you? After I do it? I don't want to be alone. Asking. Actually asking for help instead of demanding. Growth was painful. But sometimes pain was the only teacher that worked. Yes, Maria said. You can call me. Sherry left. Maria watched her go. Felt something shift. Not forgiveness exactly. But possibility. Maybe they could build something real. Without performance. Without competition. Without the weight of who they were supposed to be. Just two women trying to figure out how to be sisters. It wouldn't be easy. Years of hurt didn't heal overnight. But it could start. With truth. With honesty. With both of them willing to be uncomfortable enough to grow. That weekend, Maria's parents invited her to dinner. She went. Nervous. Uncertain. But willing. The house looked the same. Felt different. Like seeing somewhere familiar through new eyes. Garcia cooked. Nothing fancy. Just comfort food. Her mother's way of trying. William asked about Maria's work. Actually listened to the answer. Asked follow-up questions. Tried to understand. It was awkward. Nobody knew how to act when the old patterns broke. But awkward was better than invisible. Sherry arrived an hour late. Alone. No Bryant. She looked tired. But calm. Like someone who'd cried out all the poison and was learning to breathe clean again. I called off the engagement, she announced. Garcia gasped. William started to speak. Sherry held up her hand. He lied. He used me. Maria was right. Saying it out loud seemed to help. Made it real. Final. I'm moving home for a while. Figure out who I am without someone else defining me. Growth wasn't linear. Sometimes you had to go backwards to move forward. They ate dinner. Talked. Really talked. About real things. Maria's job. Sherry's plans. Their parents' regrets. The conversation wasn't perfect. Old wounds surfaced. Defenses activated. But they worked through it. Slowly. Carefully. Building something new from pieces of what broke. Garcia apologized again. More specifically this time. For the college fund disparity. For not attending Maria's graduation. For assuming competence meant not needing support. William acknowledged his blindness. His favoritism. His failure to see both daughters. The apologies didn't erase the past. But they acknowledged it. Named it. Gave Maria permission to grieve what she'd never had while building something different going forward. Months passed. Maria's career advanced. A promotion. More responsibility. Recognition from colleagues who'd always seen her value. She started dating someone new. An architect named Parker who asked questions and listened to answers. Who thought her job was fascinating instead of boring. Who made her feel seen without demanding she be different. It was slow. Careful. But real. The kind of love built on respect instead of need. Sherry started therapy. Joined a book club. Got a job in marketing that wasn't glamorous, but made her feel useful. She called Maria weekly. Sometimes just to talk. Sometimes to ask advice. Sometimes to apologize again for ways she'd been cruel. They met for coffee. Lunch. Started building a relationship based on who they actually were instead of roles they'd been assigned. It wasn't perfect. Sometimes old patterns emerged. But they both tried. That was new. That was enough. The Scott family found new rhythms. Dinners where everyone talked. Holidays where both daughters mattered. Photos that included Maria. Small changes. Significant shifts. Garcia made effort to know Maria's life. Asked about work without glazing over. William bragged about both daughters. Learned to see Sherry's growth as valuable as her achievements. The family would never be perfect. Too much history. Too many scars. But they were trying. And trying was more than they'd ever done before. 1 year after the restaurant confrontation, Maria sat in her apartment. Larger now. Room for the life she was building. Her phone buzzed. Family group chat. Sherry had created it months ago. Everyone actually used it. Garcia sharing recipes. William sending bad jokes. Sherry posting therapy insights. Maria contributing work stories. Normal family stuff. The kind she'd never had. The kind that felt both foreign and good. Tonight's message was from Sherry. Thank you for telling the truth. Even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. You saved me from a life I thought I wanted. Helped me find one I actually need. Love you, little sister. Maria read it twice. Felt emotion swell. Not just for what Sherry said. For what it represented. Years of being invisible. Dismissed. Called support staff. All of it led here. To finally being seen. To family learning to be family. To understanding that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is tell the truth. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Because pain can teach. Break open. Create space for something better. Subscribe if this story moved you. If you've ever been the invisible one. If you've ever had to prove your worth to people who should have seen it. If you've ever chosen integrity over acceptance. Your story matters. Your truth matters. Being seen matters. And sometimes the people who overlook you just need a mirror. Be that mirror. Speak your truth. Stand in your power. Because the world needs more people who know their worth. Even when nobody else does. Especially when nobody else does. Maria learned something that night at the restaurant. Being invisible was a choice. Her choice. She could stay hidden. Or she could shine. The moment she chose to be seen, everything changed. Not just for her. For everyone. Her family learned to look. Sherry learned to be real. Maria learned she didn't need their validation. She had her own. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. That's the power of knowing your worth. That's the power of choosing yourself. That's the power of speaking up when silence would be easier. Because easy doesn't change anything. Truth does. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. And in that hurt, in that breaking, in that moment of standing up and saying, "This is who I am," Maria found freedom. Found family. Found herself. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below when you finally chose to be seen. Because your story matters too. Just like Maria's. Just like mine. Just like yours.